it appears that, at least for the meantime, the process in Philadelphia is over, or at the very least, it has come to a grinding stop. The Philadelphia 76ers eliminated from the playoffs once again last night at the hands of the Atlanta Hawks, which has probably been, apart from the Suns, the surprise of the NBA playoffs. It's a little bit weird to be talking about this topic today, because normally on the show, and there are plenty of shows like mine out there on the internet, and hell, there are shows on TV that are exactly mine, where I take an unbiased approach to everything, and I give my opinion on something, and I add to the conversation, because that's what these shows are. It's taking different viewpoints and adding to the conversation. And whether or not you agree with me, that's part of the beauty of the show, is that everybody is going to have a different takeaway from a set piece of information. You give 100 people a piece of information, or give them a statement, or have them watch a video or something. They are going to take away something different. Every single person is going to take away something different. So when you have a conversation like this, where it is very, very clear what is going on in Philadelphia. It is very, very clear that Ben Simmons is to blame, along with a little bit of blame for Doc Rivers in this series. Ben Simmons is the one that everybody's going to point to blame as to why the 76ers didn't blow past the Hawks in this series. I feel like I don't have much to add. I feel like for the first time on the show, there is nothing that I can say to you that you don't already know, or that you can't decipher for yourselves. And that's a very compromising and weird position for me, because again, this show is built off my personality, and it's projecting an opinion that people agree or disagree with, and it facilitates discussion. But throughout the entire internet over the past, how long ago did that game end? 16 hours or so? The general consensus has been, what the hell happened to Ben Simmons, and how did it get this bad to where he is single-handedly keeping his team from the potential that it has? Now, granted, there are parts in this series where you can point to different players on that roster and different people on that coaching staff and say, you need to do better in that moment. Tobias Harris being a general pedestrian throughout the series, Tobias Harris, you could point at him and say, hey, what are you doing? You need to play better. Joel Embiid playing with a torn ligament in his knee. You say, well, look, Joel, it's rough for you to play. You've got that excuse that you're injured, you're not playing 100%, but still, you can make better decisions, unlike turning the ball over in crucial fourth quarter moments in Game 7. You need to do better. Doc Rivers continuously showing that he has teams, although I think Doc Rivers is a great coach, he continuously has teams that fault in the late half of series. They had a 2-1 lead on the Atlanta Hawks. They lose the series 4-3. And then we get to Ben Simmons, who, by all accounts, is the one player in the NBA that I think is the most disappointing. He's this next generation of a disappointing superstar. A superstar that, coming into the league, you take a look at him and you say, this guy has tremendous talent and athletic ability, but if he makes that next leap, he is going to be almost unstoppable. Players that I consider in this category are Giannis Antetokounmpo, Ben Simmons, even Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, for that matter. But where Giannis has excelled, and I have given Giannis a lot of criticism over the past couple weeks. I said he can't really buy his own shot. He's a little bit of a liability when it comes to those fourth quarter moments when he needs to shoot the ball from outside, 12 feet. Because if you look at his shot chart, Giannis is driving through people and being superior in his athleticism, and that's how he gets most of his points. So that was always been my criticism of Giannis, as good of a player as he is. And Ben Simmons, his game was often perceived to be the same way. But the difference between the two is that Giannis has actually put in the work to get better, and he's not afraid to shoot. Now, some people, when they see Giannis pull up for a running jumper on the three-point line, it kind of just makes you cringe a little bit and says, oh, what are you doing? Like, drive the hole. But there are some times when he does make some clutch three-point baskets when he's needed to, and he does make his free throws. And you can see that Giannis has taken the reality of what he needs to work on as a basketball player, free throw shooting and three-point shooting, general shooting from the floor in general, and he has put that time in to not only make his body better, but to make his basketball form better. Ben Simmons has done absolutely none of that, to the point where it has wrecked his confidence completely, and now he's considered a liability. And sure, Kenny the Jet Smith made a point on inside the NBA on TNT, saying he doesn't go from an all-star to a liability in 3 months, and my answer to that was that Ben Simmons has pretty much been a liability for the past 2 seasons for Philadelphia. This was Philadelphia's season. This was their best chance to go to the finals and win a championship in Philadelphia. Because I would argue that if the Bucks win this year, they'll be back stronger and better than ever next year. The Nets are going to be healthier next year. So there was never going to be a better chance than this year, in which the Bucks were coming in as kind of a, the word being, I guess, an unforeseen force, kind of up in the air as to how well they would play, considering how they exited the playoffs in the bubble. And then you had the Nets, in which their health was a great concern, and their health is inevitably, I think, what turned the series around in the Bucks versus Nets series. So there you have 76ers, and all you have to do is go through Atlanta, which, granted, Atlanta is playing tremendous basketball. They're extremely well coached, and they have been the surprise of the playoffs, as I've said. But it's still a team that you should be able to beat when you have the best center in the game apart from Anthony Davis in Joel Embiid, and you have a good coach with a good supporting cast, apart from your second superstar on the team, who is just so afraid to shoot the basketball, so afraid to drive the hole and shoot because he doesn't want to shoot free throws. This entire thing is on Ben Simmons. And again, it's a weird position for me because I don't have to tell you any of that. I feel like the general reception around the internet, around the world is, yeah, it's Ben Simmons' problem. You don't have to tell me that. Just some stats that I pulled up from the ESPN article that I was reading last night, or this morning rather, trying to find a different angle to take to make this a little bit more interesting than me just dumping on Ben Simmons. But again, there's no other way for me to really look at it, and I'm interested to see if anybody else can take a different angle, or if anybody else is still going to defend Simmons after this. And I don't know what the answer is for Simmons. I don't think that he has trade value right now. I don't think that the possibility of him going anywhere. I've seen some people say, hey, do a blockbuster trade, Damian Lillard for Ben Simmons. Portland isn't that stupid. And I don't think that Simmons has the trade value that he would need in order to pull off a blockbuster deal like that, especially after his performance in this playoff series. Simmons shot 15 for 45, which is 33% on foul shots against Atlanta in the series, and 34.2% from the line for the entire playoffs. And that's the worst free throw percentage in NBA playoff history for a player with at least 70 attempts or more. The Hawks held him under 10 points in 4 out of the 7 games in the conference semifinals, including his 5-point showing on Sunday. He failed to attempt a single shot in the fourth quarter in 5 out of 7 games. The Sixers squandered a 2-1 series lead by failing to protect an 18-point cushion in Game 4 and a 26-point advantage in Game 5, and that is the game that I think most people will point to at the end of it. Not necessarily Game 7, because Joel Embiid didn't play well down the stretch. The entire team didn't play well down the stretch. Ben Simmons obviously played horrible throughout this entire series. But it was the 26-point lead in Game 5 where the Hawks came screaming back to win that game, which was, by all intents and purposes, over in the bag for Philadelphia. Ben Simmons was 4 for 14 from the line in that game, and the Sixers lost by 3. If he just makes 3 more free throws to get to 50%, that's a tie game. He makes 4 more free throws. The Sixers win that game. And obviously that's looking at the stats and looking at it in hindsight. But if you can't, even just 50% of your free throws, that should be well within the capabilities of a professional NBA basketball player and a professional, an all-star. And somebody who is playing the point guard position, sure, he's 6'10", he should be playing probably something like power forward now in his career. But it's not like he's Shaquille O'Neal, where he's, a 7'1" center that his main job is to legitimately dominate the rim and to dunk the ball home, make small hook shots. He's not Shaquille O'Neal. Ben Simmons is a player that plays on the perimeter. He should be able to make shots. He should be able to make free throws, no matter how tall he is, no matter how athletic he is, and how he has learned to play the game of basketball. There is something broke with Ben Simmons' confidence to not only say, I'm not going to shoot the ball, but also saying, I am just knowing that I'm not going to make free throws. There's no point in me to even drive the lane. And everybody knows that. I don't need to tell you that. which is why this is a weird thing to talk about on the show today, because the show, any sports show like mine, is something in which I give you my opinion on a situation and see if you agree or disagree with my opinion, because everybody has different takeaways. But so far, I haven't seen a single takeaway that hasn't said that Ben Simmons isn't the problem in Philadelphia right now. There is blame to go around. There's blame to go to Joel. There's blame to go to Tobias Harris. Seth Curry can't play defense. Doc Rivers has a bad coaching record trying to regain the steam and the momentum. And he has a bad history of losing series late in the series. But if Ben Simmons, was anything else besides a pedestrian in that series, the 76ers would be going to the Eastern Conference Finals and playing the Bucks. This was the 76ers' year, in my opinion, to make noise. And the process that has been churning and progressing over the past 4, 5, 6 seasons, it seems like it's come to a stop because of Ben Simmons' inability and his willingness to create himself a jump shot, and his willingness for him to actually shoot the ball, drive the lane, and shoot free throws. The aggressiveness is what everybody will point to, and everybody is exactly right. It's the aggressiveness and the mental aspect to Ben Simmons and what he feels apparently that he just cannot shoot the basketball, so why even bother? That's a problem. That's not something that you should have in your second superstar on the team. I would imagine that Ben Simmons doesn't play another game in a Philadelphia 76ers jersey. I say that now, but, hearing myself say it, I say, but who's going to trade for him? Who is going to trade for him after seeing what they saw last night? I wouldn't know. I wouldn't even begin to guess to tell you. Weird thing for me to talk about on the show today without me having a differing opinion or a different take on something, because I see what everybody else sees. And I'm curious to know if there are any Ben Simmons stands left out there after what he did last night. Hey folks, thank you so much for listening to this segment from the Hard-Headed Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed this segment, make sure that you drop a like on the video and a comment. It helps me out a bunch. And if you're interested in watching more segments like this from the show after the show has been completed, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Once again, thank you so much for watching the video. My name is Nick Ryan, and I will see you all again very soon.